After 50, your legs don't swell up because you didn't walk enough today. They swell because a pump inside your own body has quietly slowed down, and no amount of propping your feet up on a pillow at night is going to fix that. It might bring you relief for an hour, but by the next afternoon, that same tightness in your ankles, that same heaviness climbing up your calves, comes right back. And if you pay close attention, you'll notice it comes back a little earlier each day, a little stronger than the day before. You've probably already been told what to do about it. Cut back on salt, walk more, wear compression socks, elevate your legs at the end of the day, and each of those things helps a little for a while, but almost nobody explains the real mechanism underneath all of it. After 50, the natural pump that pushes fluid back up out of your legs and toward your heart starts losing power. And once that pump weakens, cutting salt out of your dinner isn't going to replace it. Today, you're going to understand exactly why your legs feel like tree trunks by the end of the day, even on days you barely sat down. And you're going to learn 5 gentle, low-impact movements from a Japanese tradition of body maintenance that reactivate that internal pump directly. No extra walking, no equipment, no straining. Just about 12 minutes on a mat and a little bit of understanding about what's actually happening under your skin. Stay until the end because the very last movement in this sequence targets the exact point where your leg circulation and your digestion cross paths, and almost nobody connects those two systems even though they're working on the same problem. The hidden mechanism. The signal that controls how heavy your legs feel by 6 p.m. has a name: venous and lymphatic return. In plain terms, it's the system responsible for carrying fluid, blood and lymph, back up your legs against gravity toward your heart. When you were younger, this happened almost automatically. Every single step you took squeezed the muscles in your calves, and those muscles acted like a second heart, pressing against a network of one-way valves inside your veins. Each contraction pushed fluid upward. Each valve snapped shut behind it so the fluid couldn't slide back down. Step after step, all day long, this quiet pump did its job without you ever thinking about it. After 50, 2 things change at once. First, the tissue that makes up those valves gradually loses some of its elasticity, the same way skin does, the same way the fascia in your back does. Valves that used to snap shut crisply now close a little more slowly, a little less completely, and a small amount of fluid slips backward with every heartbeat. Second, and this is the part almost nobody mentions, the calf muscles themselves, the ones physiotherapists sometimes call your second heart or your peripheral pump, simply contract with less force than they used to, especially if you spend long stretches sitting at a desk, in a car, or in a chair without moving. So you end up with a weaker pump pushing against valves that don't seal as tightly. The result is fluid that should be traveling upward instead, pooling quietly in your ankles and calves, especially by the second half of the day. This is not the same as retaining water because you ate something salty once. It's a mechanical slowdown in a system that used to run on autopilot. And that distinction matters because it means the fix isn't to walk further and further, exhausting an already tired pump. It's to reactivate that pump directly, with movements designed specifically for that purpose. That's exactly what these 5 movements do. They're built around a set of gentle mobilizations that have been used for generations in Japanese self-care practice, focused less on burning calories and more on restoring circulation and flexibility to joints and soft tissue that have grown stiff with time. Exercise 5. The Japanese ankle pump. Have you ever noticed that your ankles feel almost stuck first thing in the morning? Like they need a few steps just to loosen up? Most people assume that's simply stiffness from sleeping in one position. But there's a more specific reason, and it has everything to do with your circulation. Your ankle joint sits at the very bottom of that entire pumping system. Every time you flex your foot up and point your toes down, you're squeezing the calf muscles that sit just above it, which in turn squeezes the deep veins running through that muscle. If your ankle barely moves through the day because you're seated, because you're standing still, because your shoes restrict the joint, that pump barely fires, and fluid has almost no mechanical push to travel back upward. Here's how to do it. Sit in a chair with both feet flat on the floor, spine tall but relaxed. Keeping your toes anchored lightly on the ground, lift both heels as high as is comfortable, then lower them slowly back down. That's one direction. Now reverse it. Keep your heels planted and lift your toes and the front of your feet as high as you comfortably can. Then lower them with control. Alternate between these 2 motions for 20 full repetitions, moving slower than feels natural. This isn't about speed, it's about giving the muscle time to fully contract and fully release each time. Breathe out gently on every lift, and let your exhale be slightly longer than your inhale. This isn't just for relaxation. A longer exhale keeps your nervous system calm, which matters because a stressed, on-alert nervous system tends to constrict small blood vessels, working directly against what you're trying to accomplish here. Physical therapists frequently prescribe some version of this exact movement for patients recovering from long periods of bed rest or limited mobility, precisely because it's one of the fastest ways to reawaken venous return without putting any load on the joints. You don't need permission from a diagnosis to benefit from it. You just need a chair and about 90 seconds.
Exercise 4. Wall-supported leg drain. Gravity is usually treated as the enemy in this conversation. It's the reason fluid pools downward in the first place. But gravity is also the simplest tool you have if you use it in the opposite direction on purpose. Find a wall, or the edge of your bed, or even a sturdy chair. Lie down on your back and rest your calves and feet up against the wall, so your legs are elevated well above the level of your heart. Let your arms rest open at your sides, palms facing up, and let your shoulders sink into the floor. If lying flat on the floor is uncomfortable for your back or hips, doing this in bed with 2 or 3 pillows stacked under your calves works just as well. Once you're settled, simply breathe. Slow inhales through the nose, slightly longer exhales through the mouth for 3 to 5 full minutes. You're not doing anything active here. You're giving your circulatory system a rare, uninterrupted window where gravity is finally working with you instead of against you, draining fluid downhill toward your heart instead of pooling it in your ankles. Many people notice, especially in the first few sessions, a subtle tingling or warmth spreading through the calves and feet as circulation shifts. That sensation is completely normal. It's simply blood flow redistributing after being stuck in one direction for hours. If you have any diagnosed cardiovascular or blood pressure condition, it's worth checking with your doctor before elevating your legs this way for extended periods, just as a precaution. This is the easiest exercise in the sequence, and precisely because of that, people tend to skip it in favor of the ones that feel more active. Don't make that mistake. This single movement does more to relieve end-of-day heaviness than almost anything else on this list, and it costs you nothing but 3 quiet minutes. Exercise 3. The seated hip release. If you've ever wondered why your legs feel heaviest, specifically around your groin and inner thigh by late afternoon, there's a structural reason for it, and it's rarely discussed outside of physical therapy circles. Your hip crease is one of the major crossing points where lymphatic vessels from your entire lower body funnel upward before continuing their journey toward your chest. Unlike blood, lymph has no central pump like the heart. It depends entirely on muscle movement and joint mobility to keep flowing. When your hips stay locked in one seated position for hours at a time, that crossing point essentially gets pinched shut, and lymphatic fluid backs up in the thighs and lower legs the same way traffic backs up behind a closed toll booth. This movement is adapted from a traditional Japanese stretching sequence designed to open exactly that crossing point through slow, breath-guided motion rather than force. Sit on the floor or on a firm cushion with your knees bent and the soles of your feet touching each other in front of you, letting your knees fall out to the sides like an open book. Inhale and lengthen your spine upward, imagining a string gently pulling the crown of your head toward the ceiling. As you exhale, let your torso tip forward slightly from the hips, not reaching for your toes, but simply allowing gravity and your breath to open the joint a fraction more. With every exhale, sink 1 more millimeter without pushing. Hold this gentle position for 5 slow breaths, then rock back up to center on an inhale. Rest for 3 breaths and repeat the full sequence 3 times. If you feel warmth or a faint pulsing sensation along your inner thigh or groin, that's a sign the lymphatic flow through that crossing point is beginning to move again. The goal here was never flexibility for its own sake. It's opening a bottleneck. And once that bottleneck opens even slightly, everything downstream, including your ankles and calves, has an easier path to drain. Exercise 2. Diaphragmatic breathing for fluid release. Here's a connection that surprises most people the first time they hear it. Your breathing pattern directly affects how much fluid your body decides to hold on to in your legs. When your breathing stays shallow and high in the chest,
which happens automatically when you're stressed, rushed, or simply tense without realizing it. Your nervous system stays tilted toward its alert setting. In that state, blood vessels in your extremities constrict slightly, lymphatic flow slows, and your body, sensing a perceived threat, prioritizes protecting your core over efficiently circulating fluid through your limbs. Do that for years, hour after hour, and heavy legs stop being an occasional annoyance and start becoming your daily baseline. Deep, slow diaphragmatic breathing does the opposite. It's one of the fastest ways to manually shift your nervous system toward its calm, rest and digest setting. And that shift alone can measurably ease fluid retention, independent of anything happening mechanically in your legs. Place one hand on your belly and one hand on your chest. Inhale slowly through your nose for a count of 4, letting only your belly rise like a balloon inflating beneath your hand, while your chest stays as still as possible. Hold gently for 2 seconds without tensing anything. Then exhale through your mouth for a count of 6, feeling your belly fall smoothly. And as you exhale, bring your attention down into your legs and consciously imagine them softening, releasing, letting go of tension you didn't even know you were holding there. Repeat this cycle 10 full times. The exhale needs to be longer than the inhale. That's not a minor detail, it's the entire mechanism. It's specifically during a long, slow exhale that your body's calming nervous system pathway gets the strongest signal to switch on. If your chest keeps moving even when you try to keep it still, don't get frustrated with yourself. That simply shows you how long you've been breathing in alert mode, and it corrects itself gradually with repetition. This is not a relaxation exercise layered on top of the real work. This is part of the mechanism. Your breath is quite literally one of the tools your body uses to decide whether it's safe to let go of fluid it's been holding onto out of habit.
Exercise the calf drain massage. This is the deepest movement in the sequence, and that's exactly why it comes last. Sit comfortably with one leg extended in front of you, knees slightly bent, foot relaxed. Using both hands, start at your ankle and with light to moderate pressure, stroke upward toward your knee in slow, continuous sweeps, never downward, always upward, following the same direction fluid needs to travel to get back to your heart. Imagine you're gently milking the fluid up and out of that lower leg, the way you'd smooth out a wrinkle in fabric, working steadily in one direction. Coordinate this with your breath. Exhale slowly as your hands sweep upward from ankle to knee. Inhale as you reset your hands back down at the ankle to begin the next stroke. Repeat this 5 times on one leg, then switch and repeat 5 times on the other. This movement works on 2 levels at once. Mechanically, it physically encourages pooled fluid to move in the direction your circulatory system wants it to go, giving your weakened pump a manual assist. And on a nervous system level, the slow, rhythmic, predictable pressure combined with a long exhale sends a further parasympathetic signal, the same "it's safe to relax" message you started building with the breathing exercise, now reinforced with touch. People often ask why this comes after the breathing exercise instead of at the very beginning of the routine. The answer is sequencing. Your body responds to this hands-on release far more completely once your nervous system has already been guided into a calmer state. Doing it first, while your system is still in its daytime alert pattern, simply doesn't produce the same depth of release. The 3-part protocol. Now that you know all 5 movements, there are 3 details that decide whether this becomes something that actually changes how your legs feel or just another 5-minute routine you try twice and forget. First, timing and consistency. Do this sequence at the same point in your day every day, ideally in the late afternoon or early evening, right around when the heaviness usually starts creeping in, so you're intervening before it peaks rather than after. Your nervous system learns rhythms. After roughly 2 weeks of hitting the same time slot, your body starts anticipating the stand-down signal before you even begin. Second, hydration and salt, in proportion, not in extremes. You don't need to eliminate salt entirely or drink absurd amounts of water. You need consistent hydration throughout the day and a reasonable reduction in heavily processed high-sodium foods. Nothing dramatic, nothing that requires a detox product to achieve. Third, give your body a buffer after standing or sitting for long stretches. If you've been on your feet for hours or seated for hours, take 5 minutes to simply move, a short walk, a few ankle circles, before diving into the sequence. That transition period matters more than people expect. What to expect, week by week?
In the first week, most people notice the smallest and most immediately satisfying change. Your shoes fit the same at 8 p.m. as they did at 8 a.m. By the second week, climbing a flight of stairs stops feeling like your legs are dragging extra weight behind them. By the third week, that end-of-day sensation of stone legs starts becoming the exception on your calendar instead of the default. None of this is happening because you suddenly lost weight overnight, and it's not magic. It's because you handed a job back to a pump that only needed a reminder of how to work. If this was helpful, tap like, subscribe, and turn on notifications so you don't miss the next video in this series. And if you're the kind of person who reads this far into a video description or script, you clearly care about actually understanding your body instead of chasing quick fixes, which is exactly the audience this channel is built for.